Retro.
Hello there. This is James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. Their behavior is continuously unexpected. So uncivilized.
Happy Star Wars Day, and may the 4th be with you. Welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
Hello there, I'm Jay Krebs.
So, in addition to celebrating Star Wars Day, we're going to discuss some recent Star Wars news in this episode. Before we get into that, though, Jay, why don't you go ahead and remind everybody what our social media contacts are?
Absolutely. So every day is like May the 4th to us. So we are on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust all the time.
Yeah, all right. The dish is aligned. The signal's boosted to maximum output. The blue milk is out. We've got our Tanneray, and we're ready to celebrate Star Wars here and broadcasting to the galaxy. So,
yes.
happy Star Wars Day. This is fantastic. I got to say, I love May the 4th. It stinks when it's during the week because it got to work. But I can't help but notice a little bit that it's over the past couple of years, like the farther away we've gotten through the movies, and maybe it'll pick up after this year, it seemed like it's a little bit more diminished compared to things that we would get in the past. And I can't help but wonder if this is like, I'm not on X or Twitter anymore, where it just seems like a lot more of that conversation was happening. But what's your perception? Am I alone in this, or what do you think?
Well, I think there's definitely so much merch that's out there to support May the 4th. And as a matter of fact, just a quick aside, in the next World Between Worlds, there was so much of it that came out after the last episode preview to May the 4th that we'll be recapping a lot of that. So I think a lot of it is definitely, based upon that buyer, getting things to celebrate your fandom more so than it is about experiences for a lot of people. And like you, I don't know if it's just maybe because I'm not on some of those other social media platforms anymore, but I've even noticed in my hometown that there's not quite as much going on. Like I was really hoping that one of the places around here would have a Star Wars trivia night, even if it was Monday night. Like I was going to go out there. I've actually hosted some in the past. I'm not doing that this year just because the establishment that I used to do it at actually no longer exists, and I just didn't put any feelers out there. But it does seem a little bit different this year, especially. But I'm not quite sure what the reason for that is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know we've got the finale of Maul Shadow Lord, and pulling back the curtain, we're recording this on Thursday before May the 4th. That's coming out this evening, but in the past, it's like we've had a Tales of series that debuts on May the 4th, or we'll have a Simpsons short, and maybe there will be one that they'll surprise us with, but it's not been announced. And I got to warn people, there is a lot of stuff going around social media right now that like leaked information of things are getting announced. There's no confirmation there's going to be a Tales of Luke Skywalker series. It's just there's people are preying on clicks and hoaxes and like that. So just, don't invest anything you've seen until it actually happens out there. But I know Lego is going to be announcing some sets that'll be coming out on May the 4th. And as you mentioned, there's lots of merch and stuff like that. But it just felt like in the past, there was more to look forward to, I think, on this day. And it just, and I'm not saying it's a nothing day, but it just doesn't seem like it's being celebrated as fully as it has been in the past. But I don't know. That just is. Yeah, I just don't know if that's just kind of the way we've been going for a couple of years, and that's where we are now. And like I said, with a new movie this year, a new movie next year, and another celebration that's going to happen before a stateside celebration, anyways, before the next May the 4th, that maybe that'll change. But at any rate, yeah.
Well, I know the Fortnite fans are probably really excited because there's, a new May the 4th drop coming out. And this year they even have them wearing what they call their Stormtrooper slippies. I don't know if you've seen this. It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. I
But
gotta
I
be
don't
honest.
use Fortnite, but it's exciting for those that do, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know so little about Fortnite. I know it's a big deal and lots of opportunity, tons and players worldwide on that. They're going to love all that stuff, but just has not been in my wheelhouse. But what are you planning on doing for this May the 4th?
Watching Maul and
Yeah.
probably just doing some things, around here. Like I said, I would love to see. I keep scanning all of the Instagram accounts of the local restaurants, and because we have a lot of little eateries in the hometown where I live, and that's one of the things that is super cool about where I live is there's a lot of locally owned kinds of things and down home kind of ma and pa restaurants. And so I'm hoping that somebody's going to have a Star Wars trivia night. So if that's the case, I will be there. But other than that, I'll be watching Maul and, probably just hanging out, making some Wookiee cookies and all kinds of fun stuff. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to be working all day, but I'm primarily work from home now, so I'll probably have Star Wars in the background all day. I've just finished season 2 of The Mandalorian rewatch ahead of the movie
Nice.
because as of May 4th, we're only 18 days away from the release,
Oof.
and 17 if you're talking about the Thursday night previews. And so I'm want to make sure that I'm trying to decide if I'm going to watch all of the Book of Boba Fett or just like the last 3 episodes that have the Mandalorian in them,
Hmm.
so that I can get through season 3 as well. I mean, some would argue that I don't need to watch season 3 because quality difference between that and the previous 2 seasons. I don't know. There's still a lot to like in season 3, even if there are some moments that are a little weird. But
Oh, yeah.
so maybe that's what I'll have on during the day before I watch Maul that night.
There you
The other
go.
thing I was doing is thinking about doing was looking up that recipe for that takodana cooler that is served at Oga's Cantina and
Oh, good idea.
making that at home because that was always fun. So
That's a
I got
great
some
idea.
ideas. If it's not a busy day, maybe I'll put together a Star Wars Lego set. We'll see. But
Oh, that's a great idea too. Yeah, I
yeah,
need to find something fun to do like that. Maybe that's what I should do is just binge The Mandalorian all day because I need to rewatch it before the movie comes out as well. And now that I mean, we know that it's coming obviously on the 22nd, but just hearing, oh, we have 18 days left really puts it into perspective. So I
hmm
need to sit
hmm
down and do that.
yeah. I may not be sitting down and watching every minute, but it's going to be on because I want to make sure that
Yes. Good
I can walk.
refresh.
Yeah, hit some of the high points on that one. But okay. Well, speaking of the Mandalorian and Grogu, we have the official runtime. According to Digital Spy, it will clock in at 2 hours and 12 minutes, and that includes all of the end credits on this. This will make it the shortest Star Wars movie, quote unquote shortest, since Return of the Jedi, which was all of 1 minute shorter. So,
Yes.
um, honestly, I don't have a problem with this runtime here. I feel like a lot of movies could stand to be 10 to 15 minutes shorter. And, you know, if you've got 2.5 hours of story to tell, fantastic. But sometimes it's like, look at your script. Did you need that extra 15, 20 minutes? But this seems right to me. But what do you think?
Yeah, and it's so funny because when you mentioned Return of the Jedi, because I actually saw that earlier today when I was prepping to talk about this. And I thought that is so ironic that they're almost identical in runtime.
Mm-hmm.
And, Return of the Jedi had to basically wrap up an entire saga in one movie. And at the time, that was a pretty long movie, but 2 hours and 12 minutes is not as long of a movie as we've been seeing recently in the current like modern blockbuster kind of runtimes. So what this is telling me is that the storytelling is going to be much more focused, and the fact that we had a lot of side quest stuff that happened in the episodes, because let's face it, it was a series. So there was a lot of extra stuff that I think happened, which was great, but was it absolutely necessary to tell the story? Probably not.
Right.
So, so I think that that's going to be a big part of this, is that it's going to be a little tighter, more efficient, and maybe it is going to serve as an introduction to what's to come, whether that is another movie down the road or whether it is, as we've talked about, that it could go back to streaming at some point.
Right. Yeah, I know Jon Favreau. I don't want to get too far into this because I know the week before The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out, you and I are currently planning to do a preview episode, for lack of a better description, where you kind of setting some of our expectations and talking about some things we know that lead into it. But I know Jon Favreau has described this as being something, and some of the marketing has even said, that will shape the galaxy going forward here, that it may be leading into something, which is interesting because they haven't really told us like who the villain of this movie is. I mean, we see
Right. True.
Mandalorian fighting a
Mhm.
bunch of people, and we hear references to various Imperial warlords that are out there, but it's not like any of them have been like front and center in the trailers. So
Mhm.
it'll
Mhm.
be. I'm curious to see how that all plays out when we get to the theaters. So
Yeah, exactly.
okay. Well, shifting over to television, Maul Shadowlord is proving to be incredibly successful. We were just talking about this a little bit on Friday when we did our discussion of episode 7 and 8 of Maul, that it's got a 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is phenomenal. But not only that, it is the number one show on Disney Plus globally. And this was as of April 23rd. So we don't have the end of the month figures just yet. But it took over the number one spot in the United States on April 18th. And it is currently the top ranking show in the United States, Canada, and Germany. So, you and I have not been shy about saying it. This is some of the best Star Wars we've had in years.
Mhm.
And the statistics seem to be bearing that out.
Oh yeah. And that's huge. I mean, this ranking and just all of the reactions that it's gotten, that's just not something to be taken lightly when it comes to anything like this, because if we know anything about Star Wars fans, that there's a lot of division, between what people like and what they don't. And of course that's fine. Everybody can like what they want to like, but this is definitely something that I think is uniting all the fans, which, Andor did that a lot. There it was very well received. So, I mean, the fact that Star Wars is the pendulum is swinging in this way and it's really showing just high quality storytelling, no matter whether it's animated or whether it's live action, is just really speaks volumes about the quality of everything that we've gotten. And it also makes me very, very excited for the future too. But I do have to ask you, Dennis. So I was thinking about this today, that with this type of success that Maul Shadowlord is having, I know that we've got Starfighter on the horizon, and that seems like a good guy kind of centric movie. But do you think that this series could potentially influence further future projects in the way that we could be entering kind of a villain era of Star Wars storytelling?
Interesting question. I'm trying to think of what other villain they could put front and center like that. The obvious choice would be some sort of series that surrounds Darth Vader. I mean, they've had a very successful Darth Vader comic, but if you're going to do that, you run the risk of having to wipe out a whole bunch of comics because, you know, and we've been there with Andor, right? I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
outdone they overrode the Cassian and K2SO comic in order to rewrite hit their meeting in the series. But I mean, I guess. I mean, you could do. I mean, they kind of did They turned another villain into a hero with Boba Fett, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which got far more mixed reviews than this. I just don't know what other villain. Nothing's coming. Another. There isn't another villain that's coming to mind that would be popular enough maybe to do this with. I guess is my thought. But what do you think?
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair enough to say. And I asked that question only because I guess it was kind of an unfair way to set you up, because what I feel like is that, again, Star Wars has just been so diverse with the fact that we've gotten so many different types of focuses or foci. I don't know if it's Greek or Latin, but there you go for plural. But from the aspect of, as you said, with the Mandalorian, we've had that the focus was, yeah, it's a good guy, but it's a completely type of good guy than a Jedi. And then you've got Andor, which focuses on the struggle against the Empire and what is going on behind the scenes and all of that, and had really nothing, obviously, to do with Jedi at all. So, I'm wondering if with the success of Maul Shadowlord, if it's going to usher in that different type of storytelling, and not to say that there's any one specific type of villain that might necessarily be focused on, but that it's going to maybe be from a different point of view, as Obi-Wan would say, and that there might be some openings for that type of storytelling.
For me, I think what the influence of this, or the success of this series is going to do, and the success of Andor is that unlike the Clone Wars and unlike the Bad Batch, which are a bit more serialized, right? You had different stories, sometimes every week, sometimes told in 3 to 4 story arcs, episode arcs. This is one story being told across an entire season, and it's way more cinematic than what we're used to out of Star Wars animation. The level of the animation, I think, going forward, this series and its success. And look, I don't know what it ultimately does for Disney Plus's bottom line, but if it is the number one draw on Disney Plus right now, why would you not invest in more Star Wars animation like this? Here, this adult tone that it carries compared to, look, there was plenty of episodes of the Clone Wars and Bad Batch that were aimed at a PG-13 type of an audience, but this one it's an elevated tone, right? So I could see them being inspired by the success to do more like that. Now, that having been said, if we look back at what's been on Disney Plus as far as Star Wars over the last couple of years, you've had The Acolyte, you've had Skeleton Crew, you've had Bad Batch, you had Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, the success of Andor season 2, and now this, and none of those are the same thing. But as you were alluding to just a second ago, there are some similarities between the success of season Andor as a whole, but especially season 2 and this. And that seems to be the tone that's really resonating with people right now. So it doesn't necessarily have to be villain focused, but I do think, the anti-hero type of aspect of things, which is quite different than traditional Star Wars, the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy that people look back so fondly. So maybe that's the tone that they strike in the interim for a while. So we'll see.
Yeah, I like that terminology, the anti-villain, or the anti-hero, I'm sorry, as opposed to the villain.
Right.
I like that.
Okay. Well, let's turn our attention to Celebration, and we are a few days away. Well, by the time this airs, Celebration tickets will be going on sale in 2 days, so stand by for that. But we are still about 11 months away from Celebration, and we've already gotten announcements and the like for this, which kind of blows my mind. This seems way early, but we have the key art for Star Wars Celebration LA 2027. I don't know about you, but I think this was brilliant. They took the classic Star Wars poster, the one where it's Luke Skywalker holding up the lightsaber, Leia kind of draped around his leg at the bottom, Darth Vader looming in the background with the Death Star, and they Hollywoodized it here with the colors, and we got the LA cityscape in the background. You even have R2 and 3PO down in the corner, or at least offset to the side there. Palm trees, perfect blend of classic Star Wars imagery and LA imagery here. Very LA type colors and stuff like that. Looks cool. But that's my opinion. What do you think?
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, it's basically the myth that we're used to of Star Wars and the original trilogy, and especially with A New Hope, mixed with the hype of Celebration. And you nailed it. I mean, this has got the energy of Hollywood. It's got, almost like that beachy Hollister type feel, that you see, and just the colorization. I mean, they're bold and they're saturated, almost neon in a couple of places. So it's very much in that LA kind of vibe. So it was obviously very intentional in that way. And I just think that is so cool.
I even love the way they have Star Wars on the hill in the background.
Yes, instead of Hollywood. Yep.
So it's like looking at an LA sunset in this case. But that's very good. You can find it for yourself either on StarWars.com or StarWarsCelebration.com or SWC27.com. So any of those places will get it for you. They've also announced their first batch of guests.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to read these in the order I listed in our notes, Jay, but it wouldn't be Celebration without Anthony Daniels.
For sure.
C-3PO himself will be there. I think he's been at every single one, so he'll be back. Ian McDiarmid is usually a mainstay at Celebration. I don't know if he was in Japan, but I think he's been at all of the stateside celebrations that I've been to, at least, but he will be back. We get Michelle Ng, the voice of Omega, and we've got her counterpart from the Bad Batch, D. Bradley Baker, who's played all the clones, except for her, I suppose. Got to clarify that now. But Rex, Cody, all the members of the Bad Batch, the male members of the Bad Batch. See, still messing it up. But then they wrote, "Dear Jay, please come to Celebration. Hayden Christensen will be there. Love Star Wars Celebration." Anakin Skywalker himself is going to be back again. So
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't remember them ever announcing guests prior to ticket sales.
No,
so-
I feel like this is definitely a first, but I kind of had a little advance that Hayden was going to be there because he gave me a phone call the other day. So
Oh yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
did see him in Cleveland, so
I did. So,
Yeah.
there is that, we're good buds. But at
right.
any rate, no, I seriously do think though that they're gonna start dribbling these out to us either on like a couple days basis or maybe a weekly basis too, because I'm sure that they've got plenty of commitments already. But just like you though, I'm shocked that they already started announcing these because that is very uncelebration like.
Yeah. Well, you could speculate all you want. I mean, I think we're all expecting Anakin to show up in Ahsoka. Anthony Daniels is there because he's C-3PO, and C-3PO is always at Celebration. And same with Ian McDermott. I don't necessarily expect him to necessarily show up anything like that. But Michelle Ng and D. Bradley Baker. D. Bradley Baker he's doing voices in Maul, Shadow Lord right now.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Clone Wars didn't end all that long ago. They could be there just to sign autographs. But would you be terribly surprised if we get an announcement that these characters are going to be showing up in season 2 of Maul next year?
Wow, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that idea.
Now, look, I'm not predicting that, but
Sure.
it's fun to speculate in this regard. Just be
Yes,
responsibly.
it
So,
is. Yes, it is.
honestly, I think this is just these announcements were made this week deliberately to give them an excuse to remind everyone that ticket sales are happening next week and to get people excited again. That being said, um, our good friend Ross Hollivan, I was talking to him last week via text, and he made mention that if you're planning on to Celebration, you might want to look into hotels right now, just in case you don't get one through the hotel block. Because
Okay.
yeah, so there's a few hotels that have already booked up. But
Wow.
yeah, I went and got a room with that information. So here's the thing: I would get a room, don't make it refundable, and then if you don't get one through the block, then at least you'll have something. And even after that, assuming you don't get your first choice of hotel, keep going back over the couple months and looking for what you want. Because I know from our experience, Jay, that like Chicago, especially, we got the rooms we wanted very late in the process as people,
Yes.
had to cancel or they changed their plans and stayed someplace else.
Right.
So, just keep after it. But this is a good time. Typically, the tickets go on sale before the regular hotel rooms are even available, but that's just not the way it worked out this year. So,
No, I think that's great advice, and I need to take that advice as a matter of fact. But yeah, absolutely excellent to do because, as you said, you could even switch it later on if maybe you don't get the hotel that you want, and then there's a cancellation, and just keep checking, and that way you can get the accommodations that you want for sure. Yeah,
right.
I need to
And
take
so,
that advice.
as a reminder, Celebration is April 1st through the 4th next year at the LA Convention Center. So, as StarWars.com says, tickets go on sale at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then you can also find Celebration merch is going to be available at the time of ticket sales as well. So, if you want to get your stuff in advance, that's great. I am sure there's going to be plenty more that it's announced that'll be a sale exclusively on the convention floor, but we'll have to find out about that
Oh yeah,
later.
for sure.
All right. Couple other stories we'll get through real quick before we wrap this up. We have a new poster for the Mandalorian and Grogu update of Smuggler's Run that's going to be at Galaxy's Edge on May 22nd. This is a fun little animated poster. You've got the Mandalorian flying with his jetpack. Grogu is in his arms, and then you get to see the Millennium Falcon behind them. And then in the background, there's a few little details. The new Grazer crust is there. You get to see the remnants of the Death Star and a few other terrains. But I'm don't know when I'm going to get to experience this. It's not this year. It's not on my plans, but I'm hoping maybe I can sneak away during Celebration and head down to Anaheim, go check it out. But what'd you make of the poster, Jay?
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it just really gives me the feeling that Smuggler's Run will continue to evolve, with
Yeah.
canon as it evolves. And I just think that that's so cool. And that again, for people that do go back quite often, or even if you just go back for a second or a third time, that it gives you a new experience. And so this poster definitely hits on all of those feels. And it's so great. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think they did a great job with that.
Yeah. And of course, this version has got like the choose your own adventure type thing. It's not the same trip everywhere. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. I can't wait to hear reports of people's experience on that. And then the last thing we've got in this week's news is the launch date for Galactic Racer. Of course, as the name suggests, that is the Star Wars racing game, pod racing inspired speeder bike type thing, coming out on October 6th on Steam and also consoles and the like. But you will be able to pre-order it if you want and get access to some exclusive vehicles, some Naboo-inspired livery for some of those vehicles. There's going to be 3 special arcade events. I have to confess, I don't know exactly what that means. A deluxe multiplayer banner and a digital art book. So we don't have pricing information yet, but it will be going on pre-sale sometime soon, should you be so interested. There's also some new trailers for this game. And
yeah, I've seen them, a couple of them. Mm-hmm.
Looks absolutely incredible. As amazing as it looks, I don't know if I'm going to be downloading this on day one. I'm just not sure what my schedule is going to be like to do it, but I'm looking forward to watching some video of it on YouTube and the like, because I could dig this as like a movie or a series or something with everything we've seen. But it looks phenomenal with all its graphics.
Oh yeah, 100%. And this is definitely hitting on those, obviously the prequel era vibes and pod racing and all the things which I love. I know I've said this a bazillion times, but I love the Lego pod racing. I played that constantly. But yeah, the trailers look so fun. And I don't know if I'll end up picking this up or not, but I think for anybody that is into this kind of thing, it's gonna be loads of fun for sure. And like you, I'm looking forward to seeing some of the videos and gameplay and just what other people's experience is like.
All right. Okay, well then that'll bring us to the end of this week's news. And so maybe a bit light on some of the in-depth topics, but that's likely to pick up over the next few weeks as we barrel right into the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu. But with that said, just want to thank you all for joining us for this episode of Podcast Stardust and this discussion of recent Star Wars news. If you've enjoyed it and you want to make sure you get our take on the news that we put out every week, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your podcatcher of choice. And of course, we appreciate your ratings and reviews and spreading the word. And Jay will give you our social media contacts where you can make that happen here in just a bit. I also like to invite you to check out past episodes of the show beyond the 1 or 200 you're going to have on your podcatcher. Over at retrozap.com, the entire catalog is there, as well as all the other great shows that are on the RetroZap Podcast Network. And with that, Jay, I want to remind everybody where we can be found on social media and elsewhere around the internet.
Oh, for sure. So we are easily found on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust. And you can also connect with us through all of our Pinterest boards and get some fun ideas for everything Star Wars. So, if you're still thinking about how you want to spend today and you want to get some other ideas, you can head over there. And you can also tune into us on YouTube outlets, which include YouTube and YouTube Music. So please head over to those, like, subscribe, share those out with your friends. And leave us some reactions and reviews over there too. It supports that as well. And then if you'd like to email us any of your thoughts, you can do so at podcaststardust@gmail.com. And then you can also pick up one of our 7 different show logo designs available on some Podcast Stardust merch at TeePublic. And the link to that will be in our show notes.
Okay, we want to update everybody on what you got going on with cosplay.
Yeah, so just yesterday I had an appearance at a local event, and so you can check out my Instagram, which is j.snipscosplay, for some fun entries surrounding that. So I was Ahsoka, so that was a lot of fun.
Okay. Upcoming on the show on Wednesday, it is the 4th entry in our Darth Bane book club. We'll be covering chapters 10 through 12, rather. So make sure you join us for that. And then on Friday, we'll be wrapping up our coverage of season 1 of Maul Shadowlord. So can't wait to talk about that. With that said, thanks for listening to episode 1029 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great week and an amazing May the 4th. And until next time, may the Force be with you.